Hello, friends. Hello, my 3Mers. I know you guys have been waiting patiently for this expert interview, and it's happening. Sorry about last week. I did lose power in a big storm, but today we have Krista Cummings with us. And this is a topic that I know that you guys ask Angela and I about all the time, and that is sleep. So we're going to be talking about sleep in general, and specifically the questions that you guys have around why hormonally sleep and hormones go together, why shifts are happening as my age, and more actionable stuff like if I wake up during the night, what should I be doing? Should I read? Should I turn on the lights? Should I try to meditate? To the peeing, that's a big one too, Krista? I don't even hear that all the time. And all of a sudden now I need to pee 4 or 5 times a night, and that's waking me up. Anyways, we're going to dive into it today and post. If you guys are watching the replay, let us know and post any questions that you may have. And Krista at the end is going to share any offers or promotions that she has, because she does have her own stuff like we have in the 3M. Okay, I think, is it the Sleep Better solution? Is that
Sleep
what
Better
you
Tonight method, yeah.
Sleep Better Tonight. That is what Krista has. So introduce yourself, Krista. Like, what hats do you wear? All the hats that we have as moms in our 40s and 50s.
All right. Well, so my name is Krista, and thank you very much, Monica, for having me today. I'm excited to have this conversation with you and your women. So, yeah, my name is Krista. I kind of pivoted to this career. I was a dental hygienist for about 27 years, and I, went to university for phys ed. I don't know if you did or kinesiology way back then too. I kind of did that before. I've always been in wellness or healthcare, and as I was approaching about my 50th birthday, I started to get this strong intuition that I needed to leave my job, my comfy, cozy job that I walked to every day. And I was like, I was kind of getting these ideas that I should be helping middle-aged women. And I thought it was crazy at first. It made no sense. And I thought, why would I do this? And I put it off for years because I was scared. I was, to make that change in your 50s, tech was not my thing. And but I did it. Eventually I got sick of listening to my excuses and my fear. And I left my steady, secure job. And I pivoted to helping middle-aged women, midlife women with their sleep. And I've been doing that for a few years now. I gave up my dental hygiene license officially in 2020.
Woo!
And so I kind of cut the plan B. There's no going back. And I'm so happy that I did it. Like, huge learning curve, but I'm happy. And it's opened new doors up. It's expanded me. I've learned a lot about myself, a lot of personal growth when you kind of make this switch.
Oh, yeah.
And I've met a lot of women that, I've been happy to help and support, because I found there was not a whole lot of support for women at this age. Most of the sleep advice was pretty general. I think we all kind of know, don't drink coffee.
Everyone has the Arianna Huffington. I was actually on Dr. Oz when she was there, like when her book was coming out, like The Sleep Revolution, right? Everyone bought that book and they're like, please let it help sleep. Yeah.
I know. So there was all this general, but when I looked around, I'm like, kind of women our age kind of had other things going on that I felt were not being addressed. And a lot of the reasons why a lot of women were struggling with falling asleep and staying asleep. So that is what I do. That's what I like to do. And yeah, I've got a group kind of like you do as well too. And I just really support women who really want to kind of, get that restorative, restful sleep, feel good when they wake up in the morning, and actually, do the things that they want to do, that they dream about doing. So that's
and like, let's get clarity here. We're supposed to wake up rested.
Right.
Like, that is normal. And I think, especially in this go society that we have, and I say this all the time, 40s and 50s is a gong show of a time in the most beautiful way, but there's a lot of life transition that's happening physiologically, but also lifestyle, environment, things like that. So everyone sort of like says, oh yeah, I don't sleep. Oh yeah, I'm tired. And it just sort of normalizes it when it's not normal. Like, it's not normal to be waking up during the night. Right.
It is normalized because, women talk to their girlfriends, their family members, and they all kind of compare how little sleep they get and kind of joke about it. But you should be sleeping for your entire lifespan. Yes, there are times in our life where things do come up and sleep may be a bit more of a struggle, but it should be short term. It shouldn't be go on for years, decades. And because it is affecting our quality of life, our long-term health, and just every aspect of our life is impacted if we're sleeping or not sleeping, really.
Right. And I say this all the time in the 3M. It's things, sleep, water, and stress. Those are our big three. Before we look at nutrition, before we look at how we're working out, those are your big players.
Mhm.
And those are the three that you always have to have a pulse on, right? It's not like you can do a 30-day challenge and decrease your stress, or do a 30-day challenge and like, better your sleep for the rest of your life. It's always something, like you said, there's going to be different seasons of life that are going to either dictate your level of sleep and your level of stress and your water intake, right? I know water is a little bit different scale there, but it's huge. So why, explain to us why now in our 40s and 50s, there's this, like, obviously we know the hormonal shift that's happening and estrogen and progesterone are doing this. Why is this hormonally interrupting our sleep?
Well, yeah, as you mentioned, estrogen and progesterone are sleep promoting in themselves. They just,
Mm,
that's why, and as our estrogen starts to decline, which is perfectly normal,
hmm.
and it's just a regular part of being a woman, it is sleep promoting. And so sometimes that is protective for a variety of things. First of all, it can protect, the sleep apnea that might start to come up because we lose a little bit of that flexibility too when things are a bit more relaxed, even in our throat. It'll affect our breathing as well too. So that could be a consideration as well too.
That's me.
And
Like, my husband's like, you are snoring. Like, for the last year or two, he's like, your snoring is off the charts. And my dad was a big snorer. And I'm like, I know we have a shorter neck, but I was like, really? And I know I'm a mouse sleeper, but he's like, you've always been a mouse sleeper, but off the charts lately. Huh? Maybe that's it, right?
right. When we lose progesterone, progesterone has a calming effect on our body. So anxiety may increase a little bit more because we've kind of lost that protective of just being able to go with the flow. Our resilience is just not what it was maybe a decade earlier.
Hmm.
And also hormones, blood sugar is huge. If our insulin is not, if we're having blood sugar up and down crashes throughout the day, this is going to continue into the evening. And when we're sleeping in the middle of the night, if we have if our blood sugar starts to dip down, this is a stress in our body. And when our body's stressed, what does it do? It secretes a little bit of adrenaline, a little bit of cortisol, which is stimulatory. So it'll wake you up, and then you're awake and you're kind of wondering what's going on. So blood sugar is huge for, I find, a lot of women as well too.
Hmm.
So what you do during the day is going to certainly impact your evening as well too. So you can't just kind of separate it. It's
Yep.
not like something just changes. So that's a part of it as well too.
That's
So
a
yeah.
big aha. I just want to pause you there for a second, because when we talk about nutrition pairing in the 3M group, your insulin is a huge part of that. And that's what Krista just mentioned is a big aha. What you do during the day affects your night's sleep. And everyone talks about sleep hygiene and sleep, the hour, limit the blue lights, cool dark room. Like, we all know that, but we forget nutritionally what's happening during the day. And I talked to you guys about, we often forget how much energy we use while we sleep. So if your glucose is low, right, already, it's right away going to trigger, right, more energy output while you're sleeping.
And your
Yeah.
body's trying to protect you too. Like it knows when you have those dips, it doesn't want you to die. So that's when it starts to secrete that to kind of wake you
Yep.
up. So you potentially maybe need to get something. So for some women, I might suggest a bedtime snack. I love to have a little bit of time after dinner because I find a lot of women will probably sleep better if they don't have full stomachs, or
Hmm.
they've had time to process their last meal. So generally I would recommend at least 2 to 3 hours after dinner before you go to bed.
Hmm.
But if I do suspect someone does have some blood sugar issues, I might recommend like a little bedtime snack prior,
Yep.
just to test it out,
Done
just see.
that.
Yeah,
Yep.
and just
Just to see,
see how
just
it
to
goes.
bump you up,
Yeah,
something that's easily digestible, right? A
yeah.
nice complex little bit carb in there. You're not having a full meal or a handful of nuts, right? Just something easy to sort of bump you up before bed.
And that might kind of keep you kind of a little bit more stable throughout the evening as well too. And then,
Yeah.
working on a blood sugar during the day, hopefully you can kind of get out of that practice too. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that will impact things as well too.
Okay.
Also, liver issues, if we're kind of having a lot of processed foods, a lot of alcohol, a lot of caffeine, even our emotions, if we have a lot of anger, resentment, that's all kind of related to our liver as well too. So when our liver starts to process at that lovely, 2 to 3, 4 a.m. So if we have a lot going on in our liver processing, that'll wake us up as well too. So that's something I also see with a lot of them too.
Yeah, liver overload. We
Yeah.
often forget about, we talk about hormones and hormones being in sync and in symphony, but we forget about key organs that relate to that. And your liver is one of them, right? And it's busy trying to metabolize all these other things,
Mhm.
Ritz crackers that it doesn't understand what it is, right? It's not going to be able to help um, work with estrogen progesterone, which is one of the key functions of our liver,
Right.
right? So let's talk about, okay, so that's hormones on a very high level. Okay,
Yeah.
so we know we're all feeling it. Okay, we feel the shifts, we get it. So what's causing the nightly wake ups? We kind of said a little bit. It could be that sugar, insulin level. Is there anything else? Liver function too.
Liver function, blood sugar is a big one. I find a lot of women are kind of high stress, which is, a part of our life. The last couple of years, we've got kids maybe in high school, leaving home, university, marriage issues, things might be shifting a little bit. We're taking care of aging parents.
Mhm.
We're potentially thinking of, our job situation as well might be coming up.
Changing
Retirement,
careers. Yeah.
changing careers. That literally kept me awake because I wanted to do this thing and I was like, can I do this?
Yeah.
And it literally kept me awake because I was thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it. So I would say another big thing that I find keeps women awake is really not dealing with some of those emotions that we need to deal with. And oftentimes you're like, well, I don't know what it is. But if we're truthful and honest, most of us do know what's going on. We just don't want to deal with it.
Because we're too busy. It's like, I'll
And,
deal with that later.
and when is
Put
it
it
going to
on the
come?
list.
Yeah, and
Meltdown is not scheduled till Thursday.
right.
Yeah.
And so it might be making some of those hard decisions.
Yeah.
And by the time we get to bed, it's really the first time in the day where we're quiet, we're alone, and we're not distracted. So that sometimes not dealing with what we know we need to deal with will keep us awake, and that'll wake us up in the middle of the night as well, because your body knows. It knows. You
Right.
can't trick it really. So
And do we typically, in your expert opinion, do we typically wake up during a cycle time? Like how we usually have like deep sleep, usually right at the beginning of our sleep cycle, then the REM, and then light sleep.
right.
Right? Is there a
Yeah.
time that we typically wake up, or is it just random depending on function,
We
physiological?
kind of cycle through every 90 minutes, we go through a sleep cycle.
Yeah.
So generally speaking, as we transition from one sleep cycle to the next sleep cycle, you may be a little bit more, you might wake up during that transition time. And then generally that occurs closer to the morning time, just because our sleep is a little bit lighter. We're in that lighter REM sleep, kind of, that 3, 4, 5 a.m., 6 a.m. So we might be waking up a little bit earlier at that point as we transition through our sleep cycles. Yeah. And also to just, as we age too, our melatonin goes down a little bit as well too.
Naturally.
So, yeah, just naturally. So we want to be able to do everything we can to keep it working as optimally as possible, because it does decrease with age. So obviously if our melatonin's decreasing a little bit too, that will keep us asleep, right? So we want that kind of melatonin. So, I mean, you probably know this, but really having a cool, dark room, making sure that you're sleeping with really light clothes. I personally sleep nude too now, just because I don't want to overheat. I have a fan next to my bed.
Yeah.
So really being kind of aware of that, because if you are too warm, it will wake you up. And most people do sleep in bedrooms that are still too warm for them, especially if you have a
interesting.
partner.
So melatonin as a hormone, because everyone, there's maybe taken melatonin or heard about melatonin, and you 3Mers know when we talk about melatonin that a lot of it is metabolized in our gut. That's why gut health is so important. But melatonin not only helps you fall asleep, it helps you stay asleep, correct?
Correct.
See, we don't talk about that enough, right?
Yeah.
So just
You
making
want
sure
to
that
keep
we
it
have,
going all night long. And that generally what happens. So, 5 a.m., that's our cortisol starts to naturally rise
Mhm.
and melatonin kind of subsides. And that's just our circadian rhythm. So if our circadian rhythm's kind of a little unbalanced, um, then that will cause sleep issues. Yeah. So melatonin is designed to kind of keep us through the night, but
Mhm.
if the cortisol starts to secrete a little earlier, then that'll kind of wake us up too.
Yeah. And this is a big migaha that we talk about too in our group, is the difference, like our dream state in our subconscious, like our mind doesn't know the difference between real and fake. So we're
Mhm.
in this dream state, and if it's a heightened dream state, you're sometimes cortisol rates, right?
Yeah.
I was just laughing at my dog the other night because he was sleeping on her bed, and you know how they get, like, they start kicking and get
Fishy.
yeah. And I was like, people do that mentally, basically. They might not have the physical output. Maybe some people do. Their husband's kicking them in the middle of the night, or the partner's kicking them in the middle of the night. But that kind of motion is happening in our brain, right? And there's just so much going on.
Mhm.
Um, okay, let's dive into, that's so good, Krista. I love that. Let's dive into the peeing during the night. So many women I hear, and they're like, I stopped drinking after dinner, and then I am still waking up with the urge to go to the bathroom,
Okay.
right?
Some people think they're waking up because they have to go to the bathroom.
Mm,
So that's something to consider, but that's not always the reason why you're waking up. Oftentimes, we might, again, have those blood sugar, other things going on that wakes us up. Then you're awake and you're like, oh, I just assumed it was because I had to pee. So
mm.
be aware that could be part of it too.
Oh,
Typically,
that's a writer downer there. Yep. That's a
Um,
good one.
one other thing I would consider is how are your minerals or your electrolytes? Because
Mhm.
adding that to because there's a hormone, the ADH, antidiuretic hormone,
Mhm.
which will, if we're getting more salt in our diet and consuming electrolytes early in the day, that will help you kind of be able to sleep through the night. It'll
Mm.
do that as well too. So I would suggest adding some electrolytes to your, or being mindful of how much your mineral composition as well too. So I typically myself drink electrolytes during the day,
Mhm.
and earlier probably in the day, so that helps me to be able to sleep through the night as well too. So that's something to consider. Potassium as well too, magnesium at night.
Mhm.
I would recommend that for most women because most women are deficient in magnesium, which is a mineral. So being aware of our minerals, and that will help us be able to not wake up or feel like we have to pee in the middle of the night. Obviously, too, you don't want to be drinking too much in the evening. Also, too, you could do the like legs up the wall type of thing, because sometimes when our bladder, how do I explain this? When you feel like you have to go to the bathroom, having a little legs up the wall will kind of it'll kind of move things down, so you can do that in the evening. And because when you're laying still, sometimes some of that fluid will kind of come out. So having a legs up
Right.
the wall will, earlier that evening, you might not want to do it right before bed, but in the evening time, just if you're watching
Legs above your heart. Yep.
yeah, yeah. And that might help prevent you from waking up in the middle of the night to pee as well too.
Yeah.
Simple, easy.
Um, because there's a big thing, like we talk about too, the difference, Krista, between hydration and cellular hydration. So
Right.
we do in the 3M talk about electrolytes, and there's a big difference. But I
Mhm.
love your point about doing it earlier in the day. So for you guys, it doesn't, and we're not talking about Gatorade, right? We're talking about, like, you just a pinch of Himalayan sea salt in your lemon water in the morning, that most of us do anyways, right? Just to get some of that mineral composition back. And that helps with cellular hydration, right? You get
You
the
want to get that
cells
in.
hydrated. Yeah. Yep.
And also be aware of our caffeine or alcohol, because
Mhm.
that's anti-diuretic. That's going to make you go to the bathroom as well too. So be mindful of how much caffeine and alcohol you're drinking as well too,
Yes.
because that will make you feel like you need to go to the bathroom more too.
Yeah, and herbal teas, like, I know some people are like dandelion root,
Mhm.
right? Which they take that for inflammation, but it's a natural diuretic, right? So that's going to start, helping you go to the bathroom if you're having it before you go to bed or anything like that. Is it true, Krista, that you hear the old adage, you can train yourself to, like, if you're waking up in the middle, this isn't me now trying to get my words together. If you're waking up in the middle of the night, right? Then you basically are training yourself to wake up in the middle of the night. Like it becomes like a habit, like your
Right.
mind and your body's like, yep, it's time to wake up now,
Mhm.
right? And so you have to kind of slowly, again, there'll be good days and some bad days, get into the rhythm of where you're actually sleeping through. Is that true?
Yeah, because your body craves a routine, right? And it's
Mm,
like that with sleep too. So sometimes even, going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, even on weekends, you've probably heard that before too, just
yeah,
because your body really does like that. And that's part of your circadian rhythm as well too. It
right.
impacts when you get hungry, when you go to the bathroom, even menstrual, it's all related to circadian rhythm. So yeah, it can be true as well too. So if you are also, some people are like, okay, it's the middle of the night, I wake up, what do I do? Right? Like there's
Yeah.
the what do I do?
That's a good segue into our next question. That's it.
Yeah,
Like I'm trying to like kumbaya myself back to sleep. Like I
right,
get that
right,
a lot. Like I have no problem falling asleep. I crash. Right.
right.
And then if I people, clients that that have a problem falling asleep, we do the brain dump, right? Just write down what's in your brain, get it out, give gratitude, that kind of woo stuff that works. It
Mhm.
works. But for those that crash, no problem. But then wake up in the middle of the night and they're kind of like, okay, right? They want to go on to this,
Mhm.
right? What's the what's the advice, Krista? What do we do? I had this last night. I woke up at 4 in the morning, wide awake. I'm like, why am I awake right now?
Right,
Right?
right. Well, first of all, uh, hopefully we shouldn't have our phone right next to our bed, which I know
Yes.
is a big thing. And I know hey, I've been there too. It's not
Yeah.
easy. So baby steps, first of all, this is what I would tell my clients. Don't have your phone next to your bed. We know that.
Yeah.
If that's like you're shaking and you don't know how to handle that,
Yeah.
move it to another part of your room. If you need
Yep.
to have it in your room, just plug it in somewhere else, because then you don't have that temptation just to kind of lean forward and look at what time it is. Ideally, I would love you to have your phone in another room. I put my phone in my office.
Yep.
I have a cutoff time of when it happens. So
Mhm.
that's what, so we don't want to have our phone next to our room. I would also recommend you not knowing what time it is. Sometimes do we really need to sometimes know what time it is? Because when this
Mm.
happens, what do? We start calculating, right?
Totally. I have an hour left. I have
Right.
15 minutes left.
Right.
Yeah, it's so
And then
true.
what happens? Then you're stressed and your cortisol is going to start to be released because you're getting anxious about this. You're
Yeah.
calculating how much more sleep you have. So, you don't really need to know if you have an alarm set or you're someone that doesn't have to get up at a specific time. Just first of all, try not to stress. So just
Yeah.
not stress is one thing that you can certainly do. And also you need to, my husband's just leaving.
No worries.
Also you need to maybe just reframe it. Maybe consider, okay, you know what? I'm just going to rest my body. Most of us have little time for just resting. So reframing it and maybe have a mantra like, okay, my body's just resting right now. Try not to will yourself to sleep and thinking
Oh my
about, I have to
gosh.
sleep. I have to
Yeah.
sleep. Like
I'm gonna be
right.
so tired tomorrow. That was me last night. I'm like, oh my gosh, get back to sleep. You're gonna be so tired tomorrow. You got a busy day. You got this, right? You're gonna be tired. You're gonna be tired. You're gonna be tired. And then you totally stress myself out. Yes. Okay. So you just say, I'm
Right.
resting. I'm resting
I'm
my
resting.
eyes. I'm just gonna lay here in quiet. Right?
And then sometimes the pressure is off and you may fall back to sleep as well too.
Yeah. Yep.
So
I love that because Nikki put it in our group saying, I've tried the, just like meditation, visualization, things like that. But maybe that's just getting things kind of working in the brain, right? And thinking about what's happening rather than us just being at ease and just maybe focusing on breath, right?
right.
If you want to focus on something, just focusing on belly breathing or something like that
Like a
and
four,
seeing.
seven, eight. I'm not sure if they know about that. Like just
No.
that 4, 7, 8 breathing technique is sometimes helpful. You can do that in bed. You could Google that.
Yeah.
It's in for 4, hold for 7, kind of let it out for 8. You do,
Yes. Yes.
4
Yep.
cycles of that. That might help as well too. If you are awake for a while and you kind of just, it's starting to stress you out, getting out of your bed too. Just
Yeah.
go
Just
do
get up.
something else. Go do something non-stimulatory. We don't want to look at our phone. We don't want to do our banking.
Yeah.
we, you know, we maybe fold some laundry or have a bath or wander
Read.
around. Just something kind of kind of boring. And when you start to feel tired, then go back to bed,
Yeah.
because we don't want to associate our bed with stress and not sleeping. So if this is kind of a perpetual thing every night, it might be not a bad idea if you are lying awake and stressed, just to leave your bed and change it up a little bit too, because we don't want to kind of get that sleep anxiety as well too.
Yeah. And don't you feel like sleep, like with with our sleep health, it's patience is huge,
Mhm.
right? Patience, because you'll have a good night's sleep and be like, oh my gosh, yay, finally. And then the next night, you're like, why was that crap? Why did I wake up? I was doing all the things that Moni and Krista talked about. Why? But it takes, I think my question about a learned behavior in a physiology working around that, because it's trying to keep you alive, is big, right? And just as the bad sleep patterns that we've had for how many years, decades, right? It's going to take a little bit of time to start getting it back into a cycle that your body and your mind trust again. No?
And also, be mindful about how you speak to yourself about sleep too. If you're someone I've had women in their 50s
Ooh.
tell me that I'm a bad sleeper. My mom told me I was a bad, even as a baby, I've been a bad sleeper. And I've had to
Yeah.
stop and go, okay, you're 52.
Yeah. I think you've grown out of it. Yeah.
That is a limiting belief, that we need to change that kind of thought process as well too. So just be kind of careful about, how you kind of tell yourself how you are about anything. Because if you tell yourself every day, I'm a crappy sleeper, I don't sleep well,
I hear
that's going
that all the
to.
time with women that can't sleep. I've never been a good sleeper.
Yeah.
Like, again, you're normalizing it, right? I've never been a good sleeper. It's just, this is it. This is how it should be, but it's not. Like, so much, your big 3 R's, your rest, restorative, and rejuvenation happen during sleep, right?
Right.
We need that quality time. We need
Right.
that quality time. It's amazing. I never thought about that, how we talk to ourselves about it, or just getting stressed about, okay, here we go, another sleepless night, or tossing and turning, or you know what I mean?
Mhm. That's why I think reframing it to just I'm resting and giving my body what it needs, and try not to have that anticipation of anything different too. So it's just a
Right,
different way of looking at it, really.
right. I love it. And I think too, to sort of wrap this up, it's baby steps, right?
Mhm.
Like, I think you guys watching this video and you've had this sort of ahas and like, okay, I get what's happening hormonally. I can't change that,
Mhm.
right? It's happening. Okay, how much the cortisol in the mind has to do with having a restful sleep and what's going on, right? Why my body's waking up. My big aha was about going to pee, because maybe you wake up, you're like, oh, I gotta pee, but maybe it's something else, right? Maybe it's something else. And to ask yourself, "What, really? Do I have to pee, or something else going on here? Like, what's happening?" And then just checking in with yourself around it. I love that. I love that. Is there anything you want to add before we wrap it up, Krista? This has been so helpful.
I think just the big thing is to, if it's important for us, which it is, I think it's just making it a priority too. We can't just go all day long, expect to like fall into bed and have this great sleep. Usually good sleep is a culmination of how we lived our life during the day as well too. So
So taking those timeouts that we encourage in 3M,
yeah.
right? Checking in with yourself. What do I need right now? How am I feeling right now? Get out for a walk in nature, not a power walk, just
Mhm.
getting out, breathing, all these little things that we can do that don't take a lot of time, right? Because like we hear it, like, oh, I got back-to-back meetings, or I'm running around doing this, or I'm traveling. I don't have time. You have time to take 10 deep breaths and to check in with yourself. And if you don't, then we need to talk. So I love that as a huge takeaway, because I think many of us just look at those hours of like 10 to 6, just as an example, and say, what am I doing wrong here? When
Mhm.
we need to look at the waking hours more importantly, and saying, okay, how am I setting myself? What narrative am I telling myself? What am I doing nutritionally? How am we talk about even workouts, right? Because we're elevating that cortisol. How am I helping myself post workout to get that cortisol down, which we talk about in the 3M, right?
Yeah.
I love that. So talk to us about what you have coming up, or any sort of freebies or anything like that that our guys can dive into to learn a little bit more. Because I understand, like, this is a thing, right? It's very holistic, and these are very high level tips and advice. But if any of one of my peeps want to learn anything more,
Sure.
about your expertise. What do you
Well,
got?
I have a free Facebook group
Okay.
called I Just Want to Sleep Community. So everyone is welcome to Google, you can check on Facebook and join that. And so I do, Facebook Lives. I've got learning things, lots of information that is available to everybody.
Mhm.
On Instagram, I'm my midlife mentor. So you can follow me there.
Yep.
I'm learning reels. I'm doing all this stuff.
Oh yeah, and it's good. I follow your stuff. It's really good. And we were just talking about before this, guys. We were just talking, like Krista's like, I'm known as the sleep guru. Like that's what I'm known. Like all the colleagues that we have that are mutual colleagues, she is the sleep guru, right? But she's like, I'm the midlife mentor. I'm more holistic, and it, like how she said, it's about what you do during the day, right? So about wellness in general and holistic health in general. So you guys, it's always good to hear from somebody else. I encourage you to follow her on Instagram and to join the Facebook group to do the lives, right? Anything else? I'm pressuring you. Anything else?
No, I've got a mini course. I'll give you the link. And so any of your members could do that. It's a few modules of part of my sleep program that, you could test it out, try it out, and it just gets you started. It kind of gives you baby steps to be able to move forward and some of those foundational steps. And obviously if you need more support, you're still struggling, then you can reach out, but it just gives you really those foundational things to begin with.
Right. Like where to start, right? I think here we've given some great actionable tips. I want you guys to write them down. And if you need clarity, ask Angela or myself to expand on what's best fit for you. And then this would be a great support to that, right? Great support to that. Anyways, well, I thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. All the time with these interviews, I always have aha. So I think it's a little selfish part of me that wants to learn and grow too. But I really appreciate you taking the time. And I know it's a topic that's not going to go away, right? So I'm really your expertise in it is really, really grateful for it. Really grateful.
You're welcome.
Awesome. All right. Have a good day. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.